one of the things that I found while playing Grimpath that actually made me stop and realize, I was like, oh, this is actually like quite unique, is that even though it is a card game, even though Grimpath is a TCG, I found myself focusing on the minis rather than on the cards. And I think it's one of the things that really helps like differentiate the game from all of the other card games out there. And I think it's pretty noticeable at first glance, but it really translates when you play. And that is that, hey, it is a war game, right? It's a war game that you have cards, but it definitely is and plays like a war game, because at the start of my turn, I'm like, okay, where am I going to move my dudes? How am I going to, do my plan of attack? And the cards just help facilitate that. Either the influence cards help me move, or the other, spells or whatever help me deal with my opponent's minis, or I just summon more minis. But at the end of the line, all that I really care about are like the minis, right? And I think that's really, really awesome and important. And I think it's something that like you should play up a lot, because I think that's a huge selling point for the game. For a lot of people who are like trying to look for something that's not Magic or Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh or Flesh and Blood or even sorcery or anything like that, I think this is like way different than any of those. How's it going, everyone, and welcome to a very fun and special video, because today I am joined by Dave, the creator of Grimpath, my most anticipated new card game of 2024. We're going to talk today all about Grimpath. We're going to ask a bunch of questions and maybe at the end do a little I don't know if I'm gonna call it a reveal, but we'll talk about a little thing that Dave and I might be doing together that I think is going to be really, really cool. So we'll talk about it at the end. Stick around till the end. I don't know how long this is going to be. Probably kind of long, but in any case, how's it going, Dave? How are you doing today?
How you doing? I'm so glad to be here. It's so awesome to like talk to you after I just watched your YouTube video yesterday that you posted. So it's like super awesome to like be here. Like I'm so excited to talk to you about like all of the experiences you had in that your matches with Robin. And I'm really excited to talk about Grimpath with y'all and answer all your questions, because it could be long because I love talking about Grimpath. And so I'm here for that, and I'm very excited. So thanks for having me.
I had a blast playing Grimpath, and I guess to peel back a little bit of the curtain, I've been chatting with Dave about Grimpath since I want to say like late 2022. That's when I posted the first Grimpath video, and Dave and I had talked before that as well, and we have been talking ever since. So this isn't kind of like a entirely brand new thing. Dave and I have been talking off and on about Grimpath for quite a while, and I've given feedback over the year or so. It's great to finally have you on here to chat about this game that I think is like really, really cool, and I think it's like genuinely unique. I don't know if I included that bit at the start, but I might have included a bit at the start about that. So I have some canned questions to ask you, very, very generic stuff that I imagine a lot of folks want to know about. But I'm going to use those as like a springboard to talk about more interesting and more in-depth stuff. And then we can get into like some of the nuts and bolts of Grimpath here.
And also, wait, speaking of nuts and bolts, we have this box to open. And we have this big box that's very heavy to open.
Oh, wow.
It's full of parts. So this is our first, like, there's a bunch of like, this is like we're not going to crack any packs, but we can crack a pack of packs.
Ooh.
That's what we
For the viewers out there, what exactly are those? So that's like a box of like booster packs?
Yeah, so we have 50 times 2, so one of each of the demo decks, and then 50 of each of 5 promotional cards that I've created. There, like I know I have some of my decks that are over there that I was just looking at, but there they are. These are just 3 of them, but there's full art. Like these are from the test version, but we have I'll be passing these out and putting them in like some like of the demo decks and stuff. So like if you really want to get collecty, there's 5 that go together, and
nice.
They all match up to create like a little puzzle image that is a teaser of our Kickstarter trailer. So like that's the first reveal for the Kickstarter trailer.
Yeah, nice. All right, so
I just wanted something to collect early on before we have a lot of stuff to collect.
So Let's start at the very basic. Who are you? And maybe tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience in the gaming industry, because as I would like to put it, and not to belittle anyone who doesn't have experience, you actually do have quite a bit of experience in the gaming industry as a whole. Not, I don't want to say necessarily like the tabletop, but like definitely like gaming in general.
Yeah, this is so like I'm juxtaposing experience and no experience to
Right,
like
right.
make it nice and even. So I'm a video game designer. This is my first solo, like, indie solo project, self-funded project, and my first like self-published project. And it's my first board game. So those are my first board game. But I've been doing video games for a long time. I go all the way back to the PlayStation 2. That was my first console. I work, like
It was a while
if
ago.
you want the full story, I started on if there's, I doubt there's any of you out there that played this game, because it seems like only my cousin has. Rise to Honor with Jet Li. It was like a combat action. We one of the things that we did the first of is we had full motion videos over our loading screens so that you wouldn't see loading screens.
Oh,
We were
interesting.
Like, yeah, that was our cutting edge.
The hide the loading screen kind of thing.
Yeah, we wanted it to. The idea was that the game felt like a DVD because those were popular at the time.
Right. Yeah.
So we wanted to just like make it flow like a DVD, and we were like, hey, we could play videos over the loading screens. Like, what if we hide them that way? I was told by our most dedicated engineers that we were the first. We might not have been the first, but they wanted me to think we were the first.
Right.
I go ahead and spread the word.
Yeah, nice. I didn't know that. I did know that you worked on, I mentioned this in my previous video too, that you worked at Double Fine for a while, and you worked on one of my favorite games of all time, Brutal Legend, that I literally still have a physical copy of on the Xbox 360. Love that game.
Do you remember the face melter animation? That was one of my animations, playing the guitar and he melts his face off.
Yeah. That was good.
Yeah. That was a lot of fun. Yeah, Brutal Legend was that project I worked on after, it was still brutal, but like I was saying, the Jet Li game was a fighting game. I went from there to work on I worked on a Conan fighting game. Marvel Nemesis Rise of the Imperfects was another game I worked on at the same studio. We kept making all these like violent and fighting games.
Right.
I know I'm making a war game now, but at the time I was like, I'm more funny than I am violent. Maybe I should go work at Double Fine. And so
I
started
think.
Working on the kid.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. I don't want to cut you off.
No, just start working on the kids stuff and like more of the fun stuff. And I was at Double Fine for a long time. So
I was gonna say I think that vibe really comes through with a lot of Grimpath, because you do. I'm using the background right now of like this tavern scene of like this bear and a dude with a mug and an elf, and it's kind of like more jokey. Yeah. But also you see some of the other stuff in Grimpath, but it's just like blood, kind of deal too.
I love that juxtaposition. Like I love, like, my favorite movie is Indiana Jones, and one of my favorite things about it is that if you pause it, you're like, oh, what's this like serious movie that you're watching? But then when you press play, it's just doop doop doop. They're just having fun.
Yeah, it looks like Treasure of the Sierra Madre, and then you hit play, and it's just like kind of slapstick, Sean Connery makes a quip, or he's scares the birds off with his umbrella.
Funny that you pull that's the quote that you pull out, because if you want to find that quote in Grimpath, it does exist. I do reference that very quote that you just mentioned is on a card in Grimpath, and it is in the wild right now. It can be found.
Do I have it?
You might not have it.
Okay.
But it is in the wild.
Okay.
That's a hint.
Oh, interesting. All right, well, now that the folks know a little bit about you, let's talk more about Grimpath. Let's start at the base level. So say someone's watching this video, they have not watched either of my other two videos about Grimpath. What is Grimpath?
All right. Grimpath is a mashup of everything that I know, and I think everything that you probably love about TCGs, and everything you've wanted to do with like wargaming or like fantasy miniatures. It's all of like the creative side of wargaming, the tactical side of wargaming, but really getting into the creative side of it, and then the creative side of like deck building and TCG combos and strategies and stuff like that, and really trying to like get those two to lock together to create something that's like one cohesive sort of new experience. So yeah, it's a TCG mashup with wargaming mechanics. It's it's a bit more of a skirmish based mechanic because we want it to be in a smaller scale. You're not like doing these big 1 hour campaigns. It's more like, hey, I want to play an experience that's similar to a TCG where my friend says, hey, what's this? And I go, do you want to play? We sit down. After 5 minutes of explaining, we're like slashing and we're attacking each other, kind of goofing off. The rules are getting deeper and deeper as we get the cards out on the table. So it's like a really casual sort of wargaming skirmish experience because it pulls in that TCG stuff. But then it really lets you sort of expand upon that, like get your creative juices going and like start going like, oh, I can make like a warband of goblins. What if I made a warband of goblin thieves? Like, what if I made a warband of goblin thieves that were virtuous and they were trying to like, I'm mixing spirit, mixing up your different factions in a TCG to sort of kind of create your own little sort of story in a deck. So it really is like a sort of creative TCG experience. And then, the mechanics of it are highly, tactical, strategic, and like tournament ready. I wanted something that is very fun and just sort of jovial, but like if you want to take it seriously, you absolutely can take it seriously. You can just play casually with your friends, get them hooked on the game, then come back and like dominate against them in like a few weeks after they get into it. That's kind of
right.
one of the goals.
Yeah.
That's kind of the long elevator pitch.
Yeah, I mentioned it, and once again, I'm not entirely sure what I'm keeping in, what I'm not keeping in. Spoilers, maybe not a spoiler, but Dave and I chatted for like maybe like a half hour or longer before this, just about a lot of stuff. And I mentioned that one of the big things that I got when I first actually played Grimpath is that I really, really cared about the mini aspect more than the cards almost. Like every single turn, I was like, where am I going to move my minis? What minis am I going to play? Which minis am I going to attack? I wasn't really thinking about like, oh, here's the, less about the cards, more about the minis. And my turns always began thinking about them and putting the minis first. And so for anyone who sees this and they're like, oh, how much of a TCG is it? How much of a wargame is it? I would say at like initial impressions is like almost 50-50, but when actually playing, I found myself focusing a lot more on like the minis and moving the minis and positioning and all of that kind of stuff. And to me, it made it feel very, very unique, unlike any other card game I've played, even unlike any other grid-based card game that I've played. Dave mentioned more like a skirmish setting. It reminded me more of like a Warhammer kill team kind of deal, rather than a Magic the Gathering kind of deal, right?
Yeah.
Except all of your rules for your dudes are on your card, so you don't have to memorize like an entire codex of rules to know what your minis do. They're just on the card, so you just look at the card and like, oh, this is what it does. I think it makes it really like clean and fun to play. It makes it very like, I don't want to say the word streamlined because some people could see that in a negative light, but it feels very like clean and it feels not cumbersome. Where I've played some other card games that were grid based that did feel cumbersome, and this one does not. So there, I'm just gonna gas you up a little bit.
Yeah, no, I love hearing that. That's great.
So I guess the next question then is, since it does feel so like wargamey, board gamey, why make Grimpath a TCG?
Well, okay. Right out the gate, you said like the main reason. The ease of play. Like when I first played Magic, I remember the first time I played it, my friend brought it over. He's like, we're going to play Magic today. You're going to love it. Trust me. Within like 2 games, I was like, this is D&D. I'm playing Dungeons and Dragons. I didn't have to set anything up. You just came over, you dropped it on the floor. We're playing Dungeons and Dragons. You didn't write a campaign. There's not a bunch of stuff rigmarole that we have to go through. It's just, we're in Dungeons and Dragons. So I've always wanted to have that experience that I had in my mind there on my tabletop. And I've been feeling like this is a natural evolution. So for years, I've waited for this game to come out. Like, when is somebody going to take a war game and a TCG and mash them together? And I would complain about it to my friends often. Oh, I wish there was a TCG that felt like Magic or, felt like Hearthstone or any of those TCGs that I love, or a war game that felt like those TCGs. And so Kill Team came out, and I was like, oh, that's really great. It's got cards, but I need that deck building. I need that creative outlet that I get with TCGs, where you're taking lots of cards and you're combining them in your own creative ways. Like that, like being able to design the way your deck plays, not only with the gameplay but also the color on the cards. I love how TCGs bring all that into my every match. Like it, as I get my cards out there, it's like it's coming to life, the story that I'm telling. And so combining those with the wargaming and like your little custom miniatures really helps bring the minis to life. So there's a lot of things that you get from a TCG that help make a war game better. The creativity of your miniatures, if you put a card that's like a ghostly woman giving a sword to someone, it's like when it comes into play, you're like, this is my paladin. This was her like spirit mother who always comes and gives him his sword. It's like it adds all this like narrative flavor to the game, and so that's kind of the like the artistic and creative combination. And then to speak what you were saying about how easy it is to play because the rules are all on the cards. When I did a demo last Wednesday at Kingslayer Games, and I was we had three sets of people playing, and I was talking to one of the guys that worked at the shop, and he's like, "This is awesome." He's like, "It seems really easy to play," and I was like, "I taught them how to play this 15 minutes ago, and they're wargaming. 15 minutes of their wargame, like, and they're telling each other what to do because, if you've played a TCG, you kind of know the steps. If you've played a war game, you kind of know the steps. So if you've done either of those, it's really second nature to try this new step, that other 50% that you talked about. So that's kind of the evolution of, like, in my mind, where it came. I've always just been waiting for it. And so I in fact, there was a day where my friend was like, I was kicking rocks, and I was like, when is somebody going to make that game? And he was like, why don't you just do it? I'm sick of listening to you say when is somebody going to do it? And I was like, I guess I could try. And here we are 4 or 5 years later.
Yeah. Okay, well, I guess my next question off of that I didn't really write down, but why make it a collectible, like, trading card game with boosters and stuff rather than just like a board game? So why that path rather than like a board game pre-constructed kind of deal? Why there will be pre-constructed decks, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, that's purely me. Like so this is, I don't know if anyone else feels this way, but like when you're trying to build a deck in a TCG and you can't find that card that you want to put in, like, is like a really cool card, it feels like when you find that card, it's almost like it's a real artifact. It's like it was hard for me to find this card in the TCG, the random packs. It's that much more special to me than if I just go and buy exactly what I want. So I like that sort of, not scarcity, but just that, like, it makes the cards feel real to me. Like it's a real world, and like that magical artifact is really magical an artifact because it's really special to me. And it's worth a little bit of money, so I'm going to treat it like a magical artifact and not get it destroyed. So I love that about TCGs. I love going to a new town, like on vacation, and like there's a game store and you want to pull over and get the cards that they have in that area and then continue on your trip. So
Yeah,
I want to sort of continue that sort of enjoyment, in this game. I want people to be like, oh, that's a real, like, magic artifact you just dropped. So that's kind of my answer to that. I don't know if it's the right answer, but that's my answer.
Okay, yeah. Yeah. Now's not the time to get really into it, but I think there are a lot of, like, advantages for a trading card game over something like a living card game or something like that. There's something to be said for collecting cards. There's something to be said for, like, the chase. Yeah, but we'll maybe save that for a different episode or for a different chat. But personally, I mean, like, obviously this is Red Zone Rogue and I cover trading card games, and there's a reason why I very much enjoy them. I also enjoy, like, board games and other type of stuff too. But I think there are some, like, inherent advantages and stuff.
Yeah. Also the expandability, like each expansion comes out, really gives you a lot of options. I love drafts when you're like, oh, I got stuck with this card. what am I going to do with it? And then you get another card and you're like, ooh, I could do something really creative and fun here. It kind of forces you. Like if you have
Oh,
everything at your at your like, I can get any card I need, then you're going to do what you want. But if you're sort of like stuck with something, it forces you to think creatively. And that's kind of some of the energy that I would love players to
so
sort of embrace.
yeah, one of the big advantages of trading card games is limited play, you know, draft
Mhm.
and sealed. Um, I did not write this down, but this is just kind of something that I thought about. Is that something that you'd like to be available
Yeah.
in Grimpath, like draft and sealed, like limited gameplay?
Yes. Yes. Very much so.
That's
I
really
like,
cool. Yeah.
yeah, I love like I'm I've jokingly said craft and draft, like somehow that or draft and craft, like somehow that might become our draft, our Grimpath draft. But I really love the idea of like, I love drafting a deck, and then I love watching, my perspective people that I'm going to be playing with at the LGS while I'm waiting to queue up with them and play. Uh, but I would like to take, in that moment, go back to the wall at the LGS and be like, I just drafted this deck. It would be awesome if I had like this snake character to like be my warlord. And so you go to the wall and you're like, ooh, that's a sweet snake character. And so you get to like sort of, what is it, craft out your warlord after you've drafted your warband after you've drafted it onto into a deck. So yeah, no, that we're definitely gonna have, like, we have some organized play bullet points we're gonna post on the website, but craft and draft slash AKA drafting is part of the organized play that we want to support, along
Yeah.
with tournaments and stuff like that.
That's one of the really cool things. So you just alluded to it, and I guess we can just jump to it now. We'll circle back to some more general questions, but while we're here, one thing I think is really cool about Grimpath, and you, like I said, you just alluded to it, is that you don't have to use Grimpath minis to play Grimpath, right? You can just go and grab whatever you have, or go to the wall at your LGS and pick whatever one you like, and then just use that too. So I think that's really
Yeah.
cool and really like consumer friendly. I think it's great.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like, one, it's consumer friendly because you don't have to be stuck with those like really expensive minis if you don't want to do, you're like, I don't need these extremely high quality miniatures. I'm just getting started. So it's friendly like that. Two, one of the things I love about Dungeons and Dragons was how, for the like, watching people do Kickstarters for like, this is my D&D campaign. Like, I'm like, people making a livelihood out of creating content that we would make D&D better for all of us is something that I loved. And if there's an opportunity for miniature art, there's a lot of miniature artists out there that create 3D minis with 3D printing and stuff like that. And I want to be able to support them as much as like how
Mm.
Magic supports individual artists. So like, I would like to reach out to lots of, and we have had a few different miniature sculptors work on Grimpath. We have one central guy that's our main dude. But I do want to bring in other artists, and we have brought in other artists and sort of slip those into our core minis. They'll work with our style, like design them to fit into the Grimpath style. But then if you really like that person's minis and then they really like creating minis for Grimpath, you may go to their website and then buy
That's great.
alternate fan art that they've made for minis. And like people might be like, I
That's
really love this artist.
See, that's awesome. That is almost like saying that you support, like, I don't put words in your mouth, like, but like proxies for minis, right? Like, it's like saying that, like, hey, you can kit bash your own mini, you can 3D print your own mini, you can buy from someone else. They can do fan minis, and then you can buy from the fan minis. I think that's super cool, and I think it makes it very flexible for people to do like whatever they want.
Mhm.
Which is you know very unlike a lot of other like TCGs and stuff and other war games you see out there where they're very much like, no, you can't 3D print your things or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It takes a village to build a world. So I want us to like. I would like for our world to feel like it's a village of like creators and people all sort of. It's a creative hobby, wargaming. So I want to totally support that 100%. Like definitely, I want people using Grimpath like as a starting point, not only just a game, but as a starting point to be like, I've wanted to sort of have this hobby. I've wanted to dabble in this creative outlet, and I want to give those people something like really good ground to start on, and then set them up with everything that they need so that they're like, hey, I'm creating art and I didn't know that I could because the game's helping them. And then beating each other on the battlefield. Because
Right.
it's all about like, it's all about like, this is a nice painting, but I can prove it by beating you with it. Is
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I'll circle back now to some of the more general questions that I have queued up. So you've sort of alluded to this a little bit. So why now, and how long have you been working on Grimpath?
now because we're ready to go. Like we
Okay.
are ready. Like the game. Like I have iterated and iterated on this game for a long time. I've shelved it. Like I was saying, like it was an experience that I was hunting for. Like I knew how I liked playing TCGs, and I knew that like elements of TCGs that I liked, but I didn't know what those were. I just knew that I liked certain things about it. So figuring that out with iterating on the design over many years, I really like. I started working on Grimpath in 2017. It's embarrassing to say that I've been working on it for a long time, but hopefully that just means that like it means that it's good. I hope that
Yeah.
it's not because I tried to make it work. It's because there were a lot of like moments where you think it's working, but then you play it and it's a little clunky or it's too cluttered. There's too much going on. You know, like I'm not feeling like I feel when I play Magic. It's not slappy and spashy. And Magic. One thing I talk about is I didn't know that Magic had so much gameplay where it's like, dropping a land, tapping it, slapping shock, and saying I do you 3 damage to you. Like that feels good. And so capturing that feel took a lot of iterating and getting that into the war game. You were talking about how playing with your miniatures, it feels like you're mini focused. That was something that like it's not mini focused enough. It needs to be more mini focused. Back to the drawing board. So there was a lot of iteration that was taking up a lot of time for many years, where I didn't even think it would be possible to capture the sort of game that I was hunting for. About a year ago, when I reached out to you, was when I was like, I think I've got it. I think I've got this little mixture that's sort of working. Like now I need to figure out how do I go public with a TCG, and that's when I called you to be like, what do I do? How do I go public? And you gave me like all this great, feedback, and you kind of set me off on the next year, which was actual art production, where we were like, let's replace my temporary art with real art. And so why now is because we spent we wanted to do 2023, but going from creativity to pure art production, indie budget, it was very spaced out. And so we thought I wanted to try to hit fall or winter, but Kickstarter's not the best time to do during that season, a lot of people say. And so I was like, you know what? Let's just go to 2024. Let's get it in there before the spring. Let's just start 2024 off with a bang, and let's get Grimpath on the table. So that's kind of the now.
I mean, like thinking about timing and just industry stuff, it makes a lot of sense too. I definitely would not have wanted to have something coming out around there, because you had Lorcana and you had a bunch of other games just like being out at the same time. And I don't know about other people, but I would not want to compete with like Lorcana launch.
You can't. They're very hard to compete with. They were at Gen Con, and it was very Lorcana Gen Con.
Yeah, and so like even though I'm not into Lorcana, I wouldn't want to like compete with it. So like that seems smart to not have it then. You want it with when you want it when it's kind of slow, right? You want to be the exciting hot thing. You don't want to be like, hey, I'm here too, guys. Like here's Lorcana, and Lorcana's like, or Lorcana, I'm Disney. Here's Mickey Mouse, haha. And then like you want to be the person in the corner like, I'm here too. Look at my Goblin mini.
Which I very much am. I'm very much like I was at Gen Con, like over here. There's a little table. Table over here.
So yeah, that does make a lot of sense.
When I first came up with the idea of doing Grimpath, that was in 2017 when there was a drought in TCGs. Like there wasn't a lot of, and then they all just like I was like, oh, there's no one making TCGs. Like I'll just be working on mine, and then
it's because it was like what do you call like a cursed asset, poison asset? I don't know what you want to call it, but it's one of those things that people are like, I don't want to make a TCG because it's going to cost me a lot of money. It's just going to fail in like a year or whatever. And then we had Flesh and Blood come out, and Flesh and Blood was really like, hey, you can be a self-published indie thing and be successful and not just die in the first year. And And not only that, they survived it through COVID. Like they launched and then COVID hit. Like literally it hit right before their second set came out. And then there's like some reasons why that might have been good for them, why it might have been bad for them. But either way, what you shake it out, I think Flesh and Blood really proved that it could be a thing. And then you had like this Kickstarter trend of games that started making like a ton of money.
Yeah.
And so now there's a lot there's a lot of trading card games, and it's difficult to wade through all of what I'm gonna call the shovelware of TCG. Since you're a video game, you're familiar with video game lingo.
Sure, yeah, shovelware. I've heard that before.
Yeah. So like, it's difficult for a lot of folks to wade through all the shovelware, and I know some people only like look at the big IP stuff. I'm the opposite. I kind of snooze on that. I want something creative and like new and like show me a cool world kind of deal. But yeah, I really do think Grimpath very, very much stands out. If it isn't apparent on my opinion of it already from the 2 videos that I've done and what I've said so far here. And I think
we are trying to do
we're
very new and trying to do a new world.
Your challenge now, and I've told you this before, is to just stand out among all of the other TCGs who are trying to yell as loud as they possibly can to be like, buy our stuff. And I think the best way to do that is just to be like a really good and fun game. At the end of the day, people can tout all of like, oh, we do serialized cards, we do collectible stuff, but if no one cares about your game, no one's gonna care about your 1 of 10 serialized card. Like, if your game sucks and it's not fun to play, no one's gonna care about it. And so
I think it's important. I think that's really important.
Yeah, and that's like why all of my discussion about Grimpath on the channel is like, and I mentioned in my last video, like people might ask me, oh, is Grimpath investable? And my answer is, I don't know. And also, I don't care, because at the end of the day, I think it's fun and I want to play it and have fun. And I think that's actually how you make something that is like beloved by people. Yeah. And like, like Flesh and Blood's the best example of it, right? People, it started out as like a more collector-y thing because of like COVID and a lot of stuff. But nowadays, it's seen as like a player-first game. And the reason that any card holds value in Flesh and Blood these days, other than like the super mega rare old cards, is because it's a good card in the game that people care about. And that's kind of like, I think that's where...
that's a big part of it.
I think that's where you want to be. Yeah,
I think so too. We talk about collectibility all the time. Different people will ask me questions about collectibility, and we absolutely spend a lot of revisions in our, under the hood, like thinking about collectibility, making sure that we're not doing anything that like ruins collectibility, but then also not doing, like I was saying earlier, I love hunting for cards and like some chase, but I don't want it to be where it feels unfair to play the game because there's that chase. And so there's collectibility. I want that to be part of the game because it's important to me. That's how you create treasures, like real treasures, if it's collectible. But I do tend to think that a treasure is something that is treasured by someone. And so that is where the gameplay comes in. I want people to like genuinely treasure these cards and to like genuinely apply wealth to them. If you don't mind, to on this end, I feel like I can get like a decade of revenge here. So like I remember, or maybe even over that, a friend of mine, we used to always argue. I'd be like, at least, I'm blowing all my money on Magic cards, but at least it'll be worth money one day. And my friend was like, they're never going to be worth money. And I was like, what are you talking about? I was like, comic books are worth money. And he was like, those have stories, they have like, he had all these reasons why comic books would hold value and Magic the Gathering never would. I was right. It's held value. Magic is, buy a Black Lotus, David.
The funniest part is that like comic books aren't worth anything except for like the pinnacle, the 0.01%. Everything else is worth nothing.
Now it's it's resigned to like, do you have like the special, like the first comic that was ever printed, signed?
It's like, do you have a first edition copy of the first appearance of Spider-Man? kind of deal. Like, do you have
in mint condition?
Yeah.
Like it has to be 9.8 at least.
Yeah, or like signed by Stan Lee.
Yeah, that's funny how that stuff happens. But yeah, like in the end, I want Grimpath. If someone's like, "Oh, that game's never going to be worth money," if people are loving the game and they're playing the game, then it will be something that you can invest in for the long run, and that it will be treasured by someone one day. And that's, I hope that Grimpath makes it to that legacy. I want Grimpath to get to that legacy, but I'm not keen to force that legacy onto the game early on. And so I want people to I want investors. I love TCG investors. There was a guy at the game shop that came and played Grimpath, and he loved Grimpath, but he was there because he was buying and selling cards. And I was like, here, take these cards because maybe one day they'll be worth a lot of money. I know I was like, you're a collector, right? And I was like, here, take these because I love that about you. I love, there's plenty of I bought Walking Dead issue 2, not issue 1, but I bought that because I was like, this might be worth money one day, because I really like this comic. I really like it, so I'm going to, hold on to it. And then if you really like it, eventually people, it will have a legacy, I hope. It's a very what dreams may come type mentality. If you build it, they will come type of thing. And Grimpath is definitely a game that, like I said, I wanted for a long time. And if I could capture what I was looking for in it, I hope that other people will be like, that's what I was looking for. That'll give it its collectability, I think. Yeah. Plus a little bit of effort that we put into making it collectible.
Yeah, and I think if you want to look at non-trading card game stuff on Kickstarter, you can see a similar trend where, there are some board games on Kickstarter that were only ever released on Kickstarter that are worth a ton of money. And why? Because they're really cool and people really like them, and you can't get them anywhere else. They don't exist anywhere. And so now those board games are worth a ton of money because people like them. And I think all of the collectability starts there. It starts did you make something cool that people like? And then everything else will follow. You still have to do your other due diligence and all the other crap. But I think it starts at the base level of you got to make something that people like, and that resonates with them. And I see a lot of trading card game Kickstarter start with assuming that people already think their thing has value, where if no one cares, then it doesn't have any value. And so you got to prove that you got to make people care. So
and if I could do those kind of judgment calls early on, I would be much richer than I am. So I'm not going to make those judgment calls with Grimpath, but I do know what I like in games. I can tell you it's a good game or not.
Yeah, and I think the only ones that are going to succeed are going to be the ones that people care about. And that even some games that die, I still care about. I buy Legend of the Five Rings, booster box. I have a bunch of sealed just back there. Quite cheap.
Oh, then you're gonna love this little bit of info. I have used Legend of the Five Rings in the past as a template for how to write an instruction booklet, because I actually really liked their instruction booklet.
Oh, dude.
Cause I look yes. How do they flow it? They have an intro here, they have a narrative thing here, they have gameplay here. How do I, explain the rules in a palatable way? They do a really good job.
So over a year ago, I made a random video about my favorite starter product of all time, and it was a Legend of the Five Rings starter product.
It's a great game.
I think Legend of the Five Rings does a lot of stuff that would be so cool to see in the modern trading card game space. Everything from narrative organized play to their that organized play affecting actual card sets. And I love L5R. It's so cool. If people ask, I know this is not the right place to say this, but people ask me if you could see any old game return, L5R is my snap pick. It's snap. If L5R came back, I would immediately buy and play it right now. I would do that. I even for Christmas, Robin even bought me. Yeah. It would be on Red Zone Rogue, but now I'm starting to tangent. I was gonna say for Christmas, Robin bought me the L5R tabletop RPG real set. Yeah. Because
that's awesome.
It's so cool. I love it.
Yeah, if I come up, we'll have to play a game of that. So read it and then get ready to run a campaign.
Yeah. Oh, I would love to. Actually. I would love to play in the campaign too. I can DM, but I'd like to play a Crane Clan Ooh,
Yeah.
like a disgraced Crane Clan Ronin. Like a former duelist that had all the honor but now has no honor. Oh, something like that would be rad.
I love
Um,
that kind of character. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, yeah, I'll have to build a warband for that in the
Yeah.
meantime.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, let's just talk about more about Grimpath.
Yeah. No, well, I'll make sure that we can get you that like disgraced warlord, like, you know, once he was a hero, but now he's not. Now he's a Ronin warlord, so you can sort of scratch that.
Yeah, slightly unkempt. You know, he's got that handsome, rugged look, but he's a Ronin, so he doesn't really shave all that much. He's got a little bit of stubble. He's got maybe like long white hair, but it's like a little unkempt. He's got yeah.
I love it.
He just keeps to himself, and then people mess with him. He just shreds them to pieces because.
Yes.
Anyway, if you couldn't tell,
I love it.
like I mentioned, Dave and I have spoken many times before, so yeah,
we like the same things. We like the same things.
It's also a little more casual atmosphere, a little discussion here. Okay, more about super serious questions that I'm gonna ask you. It's actually interesting that we talked about the collectible stuff because I actually did not plan on talking about the collectible stuff, but I think that can segue a little bit into this next question, and that is, this is a question that I got actually a few times, and I think you responded a little bit to this as well, and I think it should be shown or talked about for everyone out there. Who is the target audience for Grimpath? And then I have some follow-ups of why should people play it, and then what's your kind of your general elevator pitch for this kind of thing? Like, who should play Grimpath? And why should people play Grimpath?
Cool. Good question. Okay. The main target audience is anyone who's like ever enjoyed fantasy games, likes is able to play TCGs and has ever wanted to wargame. Like if you ever wanted to play with like fantasy miniatures, like on like a sort of more serious, like on a serious level, but not on a way that you're like, okay, that's too much for me to deal with. This is the game for you. Like for me, it's like, I feel like the true target audience is like if you go to game stores and you like going to game stores and you see cool boxes that you're like, oh, I'd like a cool game that's easy to play. This is the game for you. Like I want, like a lot of times I'm at the game store and I see the boxes and I'm like, that game looks incredible. And then I look at the back and I'm like, the front of the box looks cooler than the back of the box, like the actual game.
Right, yeah.
Tokens and icons that don't look like the illustrated front of the box.
I don't want to
go ahead,
cut into this, but
yeah,
I 100% agree. I know exactly what you're talking about, and that happens to me a lot on Kickstarter because I don't actually back a lot of trading card games on Kickstarter, but I do really like to back some art projects. Like I backed a Larry Elmore art book, amazing, legendary artist. But then also I back random board games and card games, and and sometimes you'll see like the art, and I'm like, oh, this looks cool, and you scroll, and it's like, oh, the game actually looks really ugly. It looks really
lines.
It's just like lines. Yeah, and I expected all the pieces to have the cool art and the art style and make it really cool and pretty and splashy, and then it's just like the cards and everything just look like really ugly, and
yeah,
it's just boring. And
yeah, that's what I love. Like when you see war games, you're like, oh my god, that looks like the box. Like I want to play that. But then when you're like, how do you play it? You're like, here's the book, and you're like, oh, that's thicker than the box. I can't do it.
Maybe I've been spoiled by games like Root. Like they just have like a beautiful art style, and it's just like throughout everything they do has that art style. But when I see it and it's just not like that, I'm just like super disappointed, and I'm like, man.
Yeah.
So
so that's kind of, like that. There's a little bit of that. That's the target audience for Grimpath. Is like if you like that kind of stuff, this is the game that's going to sort of, I hope to deliver that. Like I want the game to look as cool as the box. Like when you have all your miniatures on the battlefield and like you got Leapfrogger jumping out ready to attack you. On the front of the box is a drawing of Leapfrogger ready out to attack you, and it looks the same. So I want to sort of capture that. So definitely if that's what you're interested in. And then also another target audience that I think is kind of fun that I'm realizing is like if you ever played Heroes Quest, or if you've ever wanted to play Heroes Quest or Dragon Strike, those like, you know, if you like D&D, I love D&D, but I just don't have the time to write campaigns. And I, like you said with Five Rings, you want to play as a character. When you finally are like brute force D&T into your group, usually you're the one that has to run the campaign, and you never get to play as the player.
Oh yeah.
And Grimpath kind of like creates that like Dungeons and Dragons sort of dynamic and feel, but both players are the players, but they're also the storytellers at the same time because you're telling your story on the battlefield, your character. Who are you on the battlefield today? Who are your minions and how do they attack? This one backflips everywhere and bounces all over and then blows up, you know. That creates a sort of narrative that you would have told in Dungeons and Dragons. So if you don't have time for D&D, Grimpath is like hopefully that kind of that's a target market for people, or the target group. I just have a low attention span and I don't have a lot of time, so I wanted, for me, I want a game that I could just turn on and play it, have fun, and then turn it off. D&D is a wonderful game, but it's not that. It's go to your friend's house and do the whole night there. Grimpath is like, we have 45 minutes. Let's play D&D in those 45 minutes.
Yeah.
So that's kind of one of the target audiences, if that's
yeah.
So basically us nerds, us like gamers.
Yeah. So here's another thing that I notice that a lot of new indie card games fail to take into account. This is something that you and I've actually talked about before. But basically a lot of card games fail to take into account the local game store. And what I mean by that is the local game store in every respect, right? Not just in terms of having the product and selling it, but also in terms of available space, shelving space, just all of like the boring stuff that you don't think about, but it's like really, really, really important. So my question generally is, why should local game stores carry Grimpath?
That's actually a really cool. I don't usually get to this question a lot because I feel like when I'm, showing off the game to players, I'm like, this is why you want to play the game. But I do think about this specifically, and I care like deeply about it. Like it's important to me. Like, how does Grimpath, like, before I answer this question, how Grimpath fits into your life and the LGS is important to me. I did design Grimpath so that it fits modularly into the same space that you would if you were in a TCG night at the game store. You notice the play area between two players is the equivalent of two play mats in a TCG. So it's the exact same size as a TCG. It's a little wider, but that's just because I opted to make them a little wider. But how it fits in is important. I want this game to fit into your gaming life. I want it to, I don't want it to be like, oh, now I've got to play Grimpath. I want it to be like, we're already here. Grimpath fits right into it. And I want Grimpath to fit right into the LGS as well. So there's a loop with Grimpath that we were talking about with the like draft and craft type of idea where you go to the LGS, you see some, like, especially if it's an LGS that has cards that you're like, oh, there's the one I wanted. I'm getting that card. And then you might walk right over to the minis section to be like, what kind of minis do they have? Oh, that mini and this card would match up. I'm going to like, oh, if I got that other card, oh, and you start like at the LGS, you could go back and forth between the minis section and the card section. You could crack open a pack, look at the minis on the cards, like draft your warband, then walk over to the like big wall of Whiz Kids or whatever minis that they sell there and put, like sort of beef up your collection. So the idea is that like you'll see a miniature you like, decide you need to put a deck together. Draw a card that you like, decide that you need to put a warband together. It like a spark of this game did come from like me walking into the game stores, seeing the big wall of Whiz Kids. There is a specific character, a bard, that I was like, God, I want to play with this bard. Like, I want to play with it, but we do theater of the mind with my D&D groups, so we don't really do tactical fighting. And so there wasn't a game that I could just get that bard and plug it into. And that's kind of one of the things that I wanted Grimpath to be. Like, that bard would be amazing if I combined it with all these other weird bards that I had. I could create this like musical band of actors that dominates on the battlefield. So in the LGS, I really want to encourage that loop of like, here's some minis that we already have, but now here's an outlet for me to use those with, and for them both to sort of carry each other in either direction, whichever direction you go. As long as we're selling cards, I want to support the minis. And our minis are kind of there to help support the supporting of minis, the ones that we're making. But yeah, in terms of the LGS, I hope that it fits like a small section of cards right next to their section of minis. If it's a small section of Grimpath and then a lot of other minis, that's okay, as long as the cards are there, and we're sort of helping that loop. So I'm hoping that it creates a sort of fun loop for us to play with at the LGS. Like when we go to the store and be like, ooh, there's a mini that I like, I need to build out of it. So it's kind of my thought of how it fits into the LGS.
Will stores be able to sell the Grimpath minis, or will those be like available online, or both?
Both, but I actually just had this conversation with Travis, is this guy who runs Kingslayer Games, where I've been doing a lot of demos, and he asked me a question: do you want to have e-commerce? And I was like, okay, you're an LGS, so I don't know how to answer this question, because yes, I want to have access to Grimpath content for people that don't have the ability to get to all the LGSs, or their LGS doesn't have it, but I don't want to have it to where I am stifling the LGS stores.
Right.
So there'll be some availability online, and we will probably be selling STLs of all of our minis online, because there's a lot of wargamers that want STLs, and I want to support that as well. And we're going to be supporting other mini creators that do the same. So you'll be able to get STLs on our site. You'll be able to buy minis on our site, but I hope we have these little blister packs that we're working on that have a card and a miniature in there. So like if you buy a mini, you'll probably get like either, like, we're still working out what it is. You'll maybe get like there'll be a promo card in front of it, or like a full art card in front of it, and then behind it will be a sort of hologram or a full art potential, or a standard card. So yeah, you'll be able to sort of get those individual minis, but then the rest will be like sort of pick and play. Sort of.
Okay.
But yeah, you'll be able to, as many as the LGSs of our minis they want to carry, that's the better. But considering how that fits into their space, it's up to how they, how many miniatures do they want to sell. It's kind of up to them.
So on the topic of minis, this just kind of popped into my head. So in the version, the little demo that I played, I had a couple minis for the warlords, but then I played with these little standees. Will those standees be like let's just talk about the standees. Like,
yeah.
Are those going to be like a thing going forward? Are they going to be like a starter deck thing? They feel to me like a starter deck thing.
Yeah.
But I'm just curious about those in general.
That is what they really are, is like, instead of making the full warband and injection minis, it's a little easier for us getting started to do 2 warlords in the starter set that are physical minis to get you started. And this is if you're not a wargamer, if you don't have any minis at all,
right?
And you just want to get the starter set and just play almost like a board game type experience. Those are going to get you started. And if you so they'll come in the starter set. I don't know if we'd be selling the die cut minis as individuals. If there's huge demand for them because people love them, then I'm not going to say no, but it would have to fit into our production schedule. But ideally, you would be moving from them into the miniatures hobby. And those die cuts are really there just to get people started. In fact, we originally did the art for those for the print and play.
Right.
But then I was like, oh, these work great for die cuts. Like, let's just do that. And so...
yeah, I mean, like, honestly, they worked totally fine for the gameplay that I did. Yeah.
Yeah, they're not terrible. They look like they're cute. The draw,
it'll be actually very weird for me to finally play Grimpath with all minis, because I'm now used to the little standees. Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, there very well could be a demand for continued development. I mean, it could be like this is just spitballing, like a budget option for people who don't like maybe you just buy like a they're like really cheap and you just buy like a bunch of them. I don't know, like,
absolutely.
And they're pretty easy to like move around. You just put them all in a bag or whatever. Whereas the minis, you probably want to be a little more careful about how you store them and move them. You
can be careful, or you could be like me and be totally reckless. This is 2 decks and 2 warbands. The footprint.
Nice.
So it's not that bad.
Yeah,
I'm a little,
But yours
and also weird, yeah.
But yours aren't all like super meticulously painted or anything, right? Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah. At that point, you're gonna want to have a nice case.
Right. Yeah.
Magnets on the bottom. But no, I think you basically had me instantly when you said it's a good economic choice for some people.
Yeah.
That is gonna make me argue to always do that, because I always want there to be an outlet for people that don't have the money to wargame to be able to play Grimpath. So
yeah, because like I mean, all you need is like a bunch of those little, oops, I hit the mic, but a bunch of those little black things that you stick the thing in. That's all. You're good. Like, I don't know. It just seems really easy. Personally, I would actually like to play with a bunch of minis, but I can see it. A lot of folks just being like, nah, just give me the, just give me the budget version.
And that's fine for me. Yeah, that's fine for me. I mean, originally Grimpath was meant to be 100% TCG, and we weren't going to do minis, but because it's a new sort of thing for players, I've never done this before. I decided we need to support minis to get people in, to take that next step, to help them. We've got to be there to help people take each one of these steps. I think that's part of what makes Grimpath work, is that we're there.
Yeah, I think the whole mini thing is really, like I mentioned before, really what makes Grimpath stand out and what makes it really unique. And
yeah, and that's why I'm here. I wanted to play with minis. I need those minis. I want them. So like,
I mean, like, I'm someone who I literally have, I don't know how many points it is, but I have like a bunch of Adeptus Sororitas, 40k, Sisters of Battle stuff. But they're like literally just in boxes. I do believe 40k players call this a pile of shame. I just have a bunch just piled up over in my like storage closet because I have no time to build these and to paint them, and I'm a noob, so I don't even know like exactly how to do it. I have all the things for it. I bought all the things. It's just like I just don't have the time. But like Grimpath,
Grimpath
is just easy.
We want to like. If you're like, okay, I'm not going to do all that. I'm going to start with these die cuts. And then like after like, you're playing and building decks, you're like, I'm going to get more minis. And then you're like, I'm going to try painting them. Like we're there every step of the way, so that is a long, fun journey for you.
I'm at the point, I'm sold enough. I'm at the point where it's like maybe like, I don't know, like here, like 80% there of like, I want the minis. I want my full mini army, but I don't know if I want to paint them yet. I don't know if I want to like have that level of investment, like personal, like time investment, like, but hey, I'll just buy all the little dudes that I need. Sure. Let's go.
Well, I don't mind, like, people often ask me like, do you want to texture map these minis for advertising, like, to show off that they're painted and stuff like that. And I like the gray mode minis. Like there's something, like I don't mind playing with, as long as they look really cool.
Yeah.
And the art on the card helps. Yeah. It's not just blank. It's still very colorful. Like there's a lot of flavor because of the TCG part that help bring that stuff to life. So I don't, like I've been playing with gray minis for 3 or 4 years. I'm waiting till we're finally like the machine is going, that I'll have some time to actually sit down and paint a mini.
Yeah. I don't know if I'll have that time. I'm so busy this year. Maybe I'll take a break in
But I mean, if
March.
We're going,
I don't know.
Well, that we mention it, I haven't painted these, but it's like, I mean, they look so cool. Like when you get those painted minis, they look so cool. Here's a ghost. This ghost.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Yeah, actually, here I have a flashlight. So you can see it a little bit. Oh, does that even look better or no? Anyways.
You can see it a little bit against like your white sweater.
Yeah. But I mean, so, but these ones I put them on my shelf and I'm like, they're very, but if you get to a point where you are painting them, like, oh, it's going to be awesome. Yeah. It's going to be a lot of fun.
All right. So I'm going to move some questions around here on my docket, because since we're talking about that kind of stuff, and this is a question that came up in the comments and I had it written down anyway, so I think it's pretty good to ask. How many releases do you plan Grimpath to have every year? But I also want to extrapolate on that too. So how many booster set releases? But then I also want to talk about starter products, minis, and other stuff. So let's start with the first one. Let's start with, how many booster sets do you foresee Grimpath having a year?
So I don't have the exact, for like the core booster set, like the core edition, that I see coming out every few years, like getting an update, getting a modification of what is in the core edition. So it's not like, if we have like the 10th edition, that doesn't mean it's been 10 years of Grimpath.
Right.
That would be like, 20 years of Grimpath. But in between each one of those will be 2 expansions per year. And those won't, like the core edition is like 300 cards, 500 cards, whatever we end up, expanding to, right, it's 300 for the Kickstarter, but as we go, the core edition will probably grow to be bigger and bigger. The two the two expansions per year will be more thematic, and they will be like 180 cards, or like,
Okay.
like something a little bit more thematic that sort of
Like,
all is connected narratively. It could be based around a narrative. It could be based around like
gotcha.
a gameplay mechanic. Like we may, this is just total blue sky because I'm not setting anything in stone, but like there may be like an expansion that's like very narrative driven, and all of the characters are like story characters that are all sort of connected, that help you like build your own stories and tell your own tales and stuff like that on the battlefield, but they're all connected in our world. Then maybe the next expansion for that might be more gameplay centric, and it's like synergies that are all more less narratively connected but all synergy connected. We may do an expansion that's like I'm not gonna say Blood Bowl, but it's like the like football Blood Bowl, like
Right.
it's season in Grimpath, like if we get to that phase, and it's like that expansion is actually thematically designed around like the whole concept of like a sort of fun King of the Hill, sort of mechanic that we build into the game, and so they'll be thematically driven like that, and they'll be we're shooting for 2 every year for that. So
okay. So you want to have a core set that you said will be, updated every couple of years. In terms of like TCG production and availability, will that be something that people will have access to like at all times? Is that something that will like eventually just be really out of print or rare, or will it only be really out of print or rare when the next edition is released?
Like kind of like that. Like and honestly, there's probably some like lessons learned that like Magic has proven over the last 20 or 30 years that it's like this is how you have to do the core set versus the expansion sets that will adhere to like, this has worked really well.
I know a lot of people who miss the Magic core sets because they got rid of them a while ago, and I know a lot of people who are like really liked those things.
I liked it. That's something that I do draw from naturally. But when I talk to people about the best way to present the game, someone might be like, no, because that makes the collecting thing like really painful or something like that. I take all that stuff into consideration. So it is a bit of like what the community really wants when it comes to that. But when you think of Grimpath and its inspiration, like late 90s trading card ethics is, when we're like, this is a crazy new system and we're just making a game. Like I love those old mechanics and stuff like that in the old school games. So
I personally think that having a set like that widely available is really good, and then you can do your crazy valuable collectible stuff in like alternate arts or foils or whatever. So people can still actually like play the game.
Yes.
What about like starter products, like starter decks and that kind of stuff? Is that going to be a regular thing? What do you think about that?
Probably, yeah. Like early on for sure. We have the starter set is definitely like a core, like cornerstone of the Kickstarter. Even like get you something started. Back in the old days when I first started working on this game, I was like, if I disappear, I want you to at least be like, I've got a loop. Like I've got the game as a loop. And you even said it in your video recently that you did the other day, where you were like, it's like a board game. Like if you don't want the expandable aspect of it, you want Hero's Quest, you've got that, and you can pull that off the shelf and play it, and it's a little bit different every time, but it's it's still that cool.
Yeah, I think for me personally, that was like a really important point that I wanted to make, because when I go into this is very just how I think about things personally and how I think about trading card games on Kickstarter, because I feel like I think about it in a different way than a lot of other folks. And for me personally, anytime I back anything on Kickstarter, whether it's a TCG, board game, art book, whatever, the way I go into it thinking, I back this project because I believe in it, and then assuming I get the product, right? Assuming they actually do it, would I care if they never follow up on it? Like if they never follow up on it, and if my answer is I wouldn't care, then I'm backing it 100%. So what I'm trying to say here is like say I backed let's say a board game, right? Let's say I backed just any random board, Gloomhaven or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Let's say I back Gloomhaven, and maybe they're like, oh, we have plans for expansions and all this kind of stuff, right? And I back Gloomhaven and I get Gloomhaven, and would I care? Like, would I be happy if they never released anything else again? And if the answer is yes, I would still be happy. That means I'm backing it immediately, because that means I have something that I can enjoy and have fun with in its own contained space that doesn't require me to purchase any more, or to, if their company falls through or whatever, I still have my thing that I can play and have fun with.
Yeah.
And that's my mindset when I go into any Kickstarter project. And so the same is true for like trading card games too. So something like Grimpath is like, you can get this like starter set, at least the one that I have, and it's like really fun to just play against it. And if it was just that, if it was like only that ever, I'm like, yeah, it's a fun board game that I could just bust out. And my brother comes over and be like, hey dude, you want to play this little board game? It's got like goblins, and this one's got like little ghosts and stuff. And just be like, yeah, let's just play. Yeah. But the fact that is like, you can do that, but then you can also buy into, buy more cards, buy more minis, do whatever you want, maybe go to a tournament, maybe experience the wider breadth of it. You can also engage in it that way. I think that's like the real draw and positive side of like it being like a trading card game that grows over time. But
yeah,
I know a lot of folks who maybe they're more into the wargaming side, maybe they're more into the board gaming side. I just want to say, like, you don't have to buy into the trading card game parts. You can just get what works for you and then just do that. And I think that's one of the best parts about Grimpath, as we've talked during this interview. And that, I think it goes from all the levels, because like the minis, for example, you can get the fancy minis, you can paint your minis, but also maybe you just get the little die cut things. And so and then also you mentioned too, like you can buy the official Grimpath minis, you can buy the WizKids minis. Hell, you could buy the fan-made minis, which I think is awesome, by the way. I didn't know that. I think the fact that you support like the fan-made stuff, I think is rad as hell. You go to like some random dude's website who just makes their own. That's awesome. And then you could just do that. So I think the level of consumer friendliness in regards to that, I think, is really cool.
Cool. Yeah.
So yeah, that's my little spiel.
Yeah. No, that's great.
That.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. No, it's it's very important that people can play the game. That's important.
Yeah. So another couple questions about releases and stuff. How about minis? So are you going to be releasing new minis for every single card? Is it going to be kind of just a case-by-case basis? So how are you going to release like new minis?
I think the right answer to that question is case by case, because for two reasons. One, we're indie, so it's impossible for us to keep up with every miniature as much as I would like to. But, if we get bigger and bigger, like with our stretch goals, we will be increasing the number of minis that you'll be able to have access to. But it's twofold, because one, it's harder for us to hit every miniature in a 300 card set. And two, I do think that by not having a mini for every single card, it helps encourage that creative stuff that you were just talking about, where people are trying to fill those holes. And by filling those holes, they're creating a livelihood for themselves. And that by creating a livelihood for themselves, they're creating a real world, like a real place for us to exist and to game and stuff like that. So we would like to make as many minis as we can. And the goal would be that we produce at least one mini for every card in the long run. And we'll hopefully get there one day. But for now, it will be a smaller run. It won't be one-to-one at all. You'll be getting like the main miniatures. But the way that we're designing the core set is that like you won't be like, I don't have a mini for this weird creature. Like the core creatures, like for if there's one goblin and you've painted them to look differently, and they're in place of pack goblins and smug goblin and like run goblin, they kind of work. So we're sort of being strategic about which ones we're picking as we get started. But
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so it'll be a growing process, and it's a little bit, and so the answer case by case. But I think it's there's a reason that it's case by case, and it isn't just budget, but it is because I think it does help encourage those other creators to come in and fill the gaps, and encourages you to get out there and be like, I need a better centaur. I need like a
Yeah.
really good centaur. And then now you're hunting. And if you're hunting for stuff, you're playing Grimpath in real life. That's what it's all about.
Yeah. And then my last part of questions about this particular topic is I just wrote other stuff. So like any other products and stuff that, like, so for example, you could have like Magic the Gathering used to do these like from the vault things where you'd have art from the vault. Like, have you thought about any ancillary products other than like starter products and booster sets and minis?
Lots of like, I mean, like the play mats. Those are one of the things that
yeah.
if that's what you like, play mats. Like getting into that livelihood thing. Like one of my favorite things about D&D is like people that are like, I make dice towers and I sell them on Etsy, or I make this and I sell them. They make numbers counters or dice trays. Like there's a lot of room. Like I want to support that in the community, but then obviously there's stuff that we would want to also develop. Maybe containers for your minis, like a handy box that you can use, a new style of deck box that fits your miniatures and your play and your decks, some products like that, things that we would like to innovate. I think there's someone on Instagram. I wish I knew their handle so I could say their name, because I've reached out to them a couple times. I would love to do a little project with them, but they made this awesome terrain for Magic the Gathering that was like it's a book, and you open up the book.
I've seen that.
On Instagram. It's so cool.
Yes.
Super awesome. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, that would be sick to have like a tome that you take to the game store, and then you open up the tome and it's like basically the battle mat, and
yeah.
So like products like that I want to get there, like I want to go that direction. So yes, other stuff. There will be lots of other stuff. Yeah, we'll be starting with play mats. We're starting with play mats and dice and all the core little pieces. But yeah, we'll grow and support and make our own stuff. So yeah, lots of other stuff. I love other stuff.
Nice. A couple more easy questions, and then I have like a much more open question.
Oh, okay.
I wouldn't call it a curveball. It's just a very like it's the deepest question you could probably ask regarding a card game in terms of like actual like depth. So let's talk about the most surface level stuff. What sort of card rarities will be in boosters, and will there be like foils and other special alt treatments, all that kind of
yes.
card gamery stuff?
Yeah, so we have 5 rarities that we're playing with the names, but there's like common, heroic, rare, common, rare, heroic, epic, and legendary. Those be like the 5 rarest. There's foils, full art versions. There's let's see, foils, full art. There's like your rainbow foils, but then there's those like epic foils that are like super crazy. So I would like to have foils and then epic foils, whatever we end up officially calling those. Lots of alternate art. I think that's one of the ways that we're going to help mitigate the there's collectibility and there's also scarcity at the same time. I think alternate art's kind of interesting in Grimpath because you may like a snake character with alternate art because it fits the style of your deck.
Yeah.
And your minis. So you may actually be like, I need that alternate art, and that alternate art is scarce now. So you're not locked out in terms of gameplay, but you're still hunting for that special snake that matches like your deck. One of the alternate arts that's like an obvious one that we have to do is the like dungeon classic style, which is like those black and white cards.
Yeah.
Those were I did the what's that?
I have some of those in the starter set, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Those exist because I was one of the mistakes I was making was like getting art, then I play test it, then I change the mechanics, and now the art and the mechanics don't sync up anymore.
Right.
So I was like, well, I could reach out to some of my favorite artists that I am not able to work with because they do black and white old school fantasy art. And now I can work with those awesome artists and we can get that cool, awesome, like classic fantasy art into the game. And it's not, if I change the mechanics, it's not the end of the world because the the art was a lot cheaper than a fully painted image. So that's where those came from. But they're so awesome, we have to do Dungeon Classic alternate arts for like all the cards. We've got to do it. Yeah. So alternates like that and stuff like that will be, I think, a lot of fun to play around with.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of like alternate art and that kind of stuff. Yeah, I think
here, this is one of the full art ones, like full art Warlord.
Ooh, oh, that's the Goblin. Yeah, the one that I played with.
Yeah, Goblin Shalom. This is just one of our.
Yeah, looks sweet.
Yeah, gotta have full art.
I'm also a big fan of full art as well. Yeah. Okay. So my next question, also very basic, is just terrain type. So I played with like those big like square bricks, but will there be different types of terrain? And I just want to talk about terrain in general, to be honest here. So like, will there be different types of terrain? Will there be cards that generate terrain? Can you put like a wheelbarrow or like a house or something? You know, like what kind of terrain can you in Grimpath?
So terrain means anything that takes up a space on the battlefield. So yes, you could be like, this is my terrain. Like my deck is a farmer's deck, and the terrain I'm putting down are like wheelbarrows and like all the decorations to make my farm look cool. And we're going to be doing, for Kickstarter, there's going to be a few terrain packs that you can get that'll be like that. The blocks that you had, those are like entry level terrain. As clear as can be, like this, a terrain takes up 1 cube of space to sort of, for simplicity's sake. Now, whatever that cube is can be whatever you want. So obviously, the next lowest hanging fruit is like crates. So you get some crates that are shaped just like those boxes. Then barrels and crates, like sort of mixed together. Then like maybe castle ruins as another pack. So like the blocks will be, so there'll be lots of different terrain for you to get to sort of like, create an environment like really easily. And then like the custom terrain, I'm trying to think if I have any arms rent, but like on the website, we'll have a resources section that will link you directly to like creators that, if you want to start making your own terrain and you want to get into like the terrain building aspects of like wargaming, we'll have all these resources to get you started with that. Because that's a really fun part of the hobby, and like building your own epic battlefields to play in is definitely something that I know I want to do. Like I want to build these like dark castles and be like, now we're in a dark castle playing, rather than on just the flat tabletop.
Yeah, and this is something we were chatting a little bit about before we started the interview. I asked you about just mechanically speaking, like how certain parts of the terrain works. And so like for example, you were saying that if it's something is X amount high without any like adjacent things, then it's like considered to be unmountable terrain, right?
Yeah. There was I can't think of it now because we're on camera, but not legal terrain, like not legal space for you to travel. Basically, like if you stack 2 pieces of terrain on top of each other, like for terrain to be traversable, it has to be 1 step. It can only be, so if it's 4 pieces of terrain high and there's not 1 step that you could take without falling to the ground below it, that would be non-traversable terrain. So there's 2, like, in Magic, there's standard mode where you're playing, well, I don't know the exact modes that they have off the top of my head, but there's the mode where it's like the tournament mode where certain cards are allowed and certain cards are not allowed. Then there's the version of Magic that I really play, which is like anything goes. If you have a Black Lotus, you can play the Black Lotus. Soul Ring is allowed. So we have standard mode in Grimpath, which is our tournament system. That's the like core 1v1 raw grid-based rule system, very strict rules. Then there's extended, which is a little bit more loose. It lets you choose, if you're playing extended, you might be able to play without grid. You might use 1-inch unit measurements if you want. And one of the other big differences between standard and extended is in standard, we do the terrain placement, whereas extended will roll initiative. And if I win, I just drop my battleship onto the ground, and say we're on my battlefield this time. If you win, you're like, here's a castle I made. Come raid my castle. So that is a little bit more for like casual, creative fun. The game is very similar. It just is a little bit more creative friendly, and you play by all the same rules. It's just a little bit designed to be more creative.
I actually really liked the people taking turns placing pieces. I thought that was cool. So you got to kind of like form the battlefield right before you played and kind of do what you wanted to do.
Nice.
I thought that was cool. I didn't know.
It's like a little like Legos, a little bit.
Yeah, I didn't actually know about that going into it. So I was like, oh, this is kind of neat.
Nice.
So yeah.
Yeah.
And then
to answer your second question, you had terrain cards, or is that what your
yeah. So this is something that Robin brought up that I told you about too, and that would just be like different types of terrain, or maybe like hazards, you know, like grease slick, or like a pit trap, or you know, stuff, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So there's no like, you know, in the effort of keeping it in like a 15-minute learn to play, and then all the stuff comes from the cards.
Right.
There are going to be terrain cards. So like there will be terrain trap cards. There'll be terrain environmental destruction cards, terrain environmental like enchantment cards. So like some examples of those, like a trap card would be like a pit trap. You know, like a pit trap could be a card. You know, I'm not saying we have a pit trap, but it would be a card that would be like an initiative card that's like you play it on the ground and the floor opens up and it becomes a pit trap. That's just a top of the head example of like you could do a trap card like that. Then there could be other cards like an environmental enchantment that is like rain, and it's like it's heavy rain, and so you put that in, and now it's heavy, it's raining everywhere, and in heavy rain anything that's not on high ground is walking through mud, and so it takes one extra step for every step that it takes.
Okay.
So you might build like a flying, you know, anything without flying is stuck in mud. Maybe that would be a good card to have for flying. Or maybe there's another card that's like, you know, storm, where it's like you can't see more than 2 feet in front of you or something like heavy fog. Like now, you know, and that would be something that you'd put into a deck that's like designed around sneaking around and not using ranged attacks, getting up on people. So lots of you know ways for you to sort of paint your imagination during the match. It would be awesome if somebody built a deck that is like, I am a dungeon, you know, like my deck is a dungeon,
right?
You know, I've got a warlord here. If you can get to him, you can fight him. But all my cards are designed, you know, no minions. It's all just environmental stuff, traps, and, you know, anything that makes the dungeon come to life is something that I think would be cool. There's what is that video game, Dungeon Master? There's like a game that's
I think it might just be called Overlord. No,
that's it. I think it is. Or you are an overlord in that game.
So Overlord is okay. I think I know what you're talking about. Yes, I think Overlord is a different game. You were an evil guy, but there is a game where you are like the dungeon guy.
You're building traps.
It might just be called dungeon. It might just be called like dungeon or dungeon keeper or something like that.
It is. It's something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it is. Dungeon keeper might be a good guess too.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
But yeah, I would love it if somebody built a deck like that using all terrain cards.
Yeah, just be Kevin McAllister from Home Alone, and
totally. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, was that us? Actually, I feel like I mixed up. Was that we said that? We were like, okay, we need a blonde kid in this game, so you could be like, that's the Kevin McAllister.
I wrote that to you, yeah. When I was giving you some feedback, yeah, just a little. Yeah, does it have like paint buckets on string? Yeah. The
maybe, you know, like
a blowtorch, so it just roasts their head when they walk into the room. Those guys, by the way, in Home Alone would be super dead. That kid murdered.
They
those
died
guys.
many times.
Yeah,
I mean, it was just straight up like Looney Tunes. Like they're like straight up like blowing up with dynamite, getting electrocuted.
Yep. You see his skeleton. He gets electrocuted, and you see his skeleton.
I love it.
He's so dead. Yeah. Anyway, all right. So,
which also, but I do have to say, how funny would it be if we were able to have franchise like fun? What is that, like the joke version of Magic? What's it called?
Oh, like the unsets, like unstable,
unhinged.
Unglued,
It would be fun to have like something like that where on Christmas we actually did make a Home Alone. Like, you know, just a deck that's literally all Home Alone stuff.
You know, I could actually see a situation where you could do like even like a solo mode or a PvE mode or something for Grimpath. I think, now that we're mentioning that kind of stuff, I think it could be interesting. In fact, you could even do it like a story, like tie it into like a story, because you mentioned like story expansions and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah.
Seems like it
Well,
would
we do.
work well.
I want to support solo, and there is a solo mode that I'm like working on, but I'm not trying to put it in. I'm not trying to. I just there's so much in making the core version of this game work properly that I didn't want to overdo it, and I wanted to focus. So we're focusing on like the core standard mode, but how you play with your friends in a co-op type sitting against solo mode co-op type thing, asymmetrical deck building. I'm going to tease some of the ideas, but like, you know, I have ideas about how a solo co-op mode would be an asymmetrical deck system that would be equivalent to raiding in like going on a raid. It'd be like a raid deck where if I build a raid deck, it is designed to scale up against, if you have 4 friends fighting my raid deck, my deck is going to scale, and it would be 4v1, and then that asymmetrical deck idea is coming from the solo mode idea, where it's like you're playing an asymmetrical NPC deck with 2 of your friends. So yeah, because there's a lot of people ask for solo mode and co-op, and there's co-op in that, like if there's 4 of us, we could do 2v2, but co-op against PvE is something that needs to be supported, I think, and I think that there's a way to support it right in Grimpath, and I'm very excited about it, but it's not something I want to just tack on, so that's why it's not in the core Kickstarter.
Yeah, I think it lends itself to be very up that alley, you know.
I think so too. Yeah, I want there to be a pathway to that, to not use a pun or to use a pun.
It's interesting that you started to talk about that too, like as like not one of the focuses, because that actually segues into my final question, my final canned question, and that is it's pretty broad, but I'm gonna focus it a little bit to start. So let's talk about the design philosophy of Grimpath. And to focus that a little bit, what are your primary focuses going into this? Let's say going into the Kickstarter release of Grimpath. So what are your primary focuses in regards to like design philosophy?
How do you mean exactly? Sorry if
like I said, this is a very deep question. So you mentioned that the PvE is not one of your focuses.
What's the design focus for the Kickstarter?
Yeah. So what are you really focusing on in terms of like designing Grimpath for the Kickstarter? Like philosophy wise, what are you going into this? Is this like, I guess an example would be like, we've already talked about collectibility, but I've said like some games do a collectibility focus. Some games don't acknowledge that at all. Some games are like, here's our thing, that's it. You know, well, what's kind of like your primary focus design wise going into the Kickstarter?
The core gameplay first is really important. So like the experience with this version is what I want people getting from the Kickstarter. Is I want them walking away with something that they think is a really fun game, that it like that we deliver on all of the like gameplay stuff that we're talking about, and that like we do create that situation where it's like the front of the box looks like the back of the box, looks like my tabletop. That's kind of the goal for the Kickstarter, delivering that, and then delivering that in both a way that feels complete, because it's a Kickstarter. It's my first Kickstarter. I wanted everyone to be able to feel confident, like you said, that, well, I like this board game and I want to play more of it, and I know if I back it, I'll get this board game and I might get more of it. That's what, so the delivery for this one is to deliver a complete experience, to get you to deliver a platform that you feel like is setting you off on your path in Grimpath, setting you off on your path of adventure. I want it to feel like you're looking at a complete world and you can walk right into it. Once you get the Kickstarter, you can explore that world, and every direction that you look, the path just keeps going, but it still feels like you're looking at a complete world. So the design philosophy is like, to deliver that holistic experience of playing Grimpath. You have the minis on the table if you've never wargamed, with the die cut experience, trying to cover all those holes for new players, like give them the right ground to stand on. That's kind of the main philosophy. Proving that this game can be fun is the main philosophy. So those two elements, giving you the right ground to stand on in this new world, showing you the world, and making sure that you're having fun in that world is the philosophy. And then the sub stuff there is shipping the product that we are promising. Going, the reason I have these boxes here is because I want to make sure that when we ship the game, it's giving you the complete, like a solid version of the game. Not like, I don't want it to be like, oh, we're shipping and it turns out we don't like the printers. I want us to have all that stuff lined up. So the first Kickstarter is all about getting all that stuff lined up, getting everything worked out so that we can ship an expansion every 2 of them every year, and we can deliver all that content, and we can keep the train rolling, and we can encourage organized play, and we can encourage. So like a lot of this stuff, this Kickstarter, getting our tournaments worked out, getting all these, getting each one of the wheels spinning, and making sure that they're spinning at the right pace, so that when we set off, they just can start rolling off in their own directions.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the design philosophy. It's there a lot of logistics, but a lot of creativity. And then a lot of just making sure that all the T's and I's are dotted, and that it is a clean, good experience for you to start off with.
How far along, maybe you can't answer this, how far along is the first Grimpath set to completion?
There are specs for every card, but the more you play a card in Grimpath, the more we play test it, the more you're like, oh, there's a whole style of mechanic that I didn't even think would be amazing, like mixing the TCG with the tacticalness. We need we need some new cards that do this. So I like to say that we have 100% of the cards spec'd out, but I want to take 25% of those through rigorous play testing, and adjust that a little bit while we're finishing up the art. So we have the cards all spec'd out. The Kickstarter is really to help us deliver like a high quality game, to get the art to be, for every image to tell a story, for it to really come to life. So we have a ton of artists that are like ready to go. I've spent the last year building relationships with artists and talking to artists about this game. And then thanks to you, and thanks to all the people that have been following the game, more people have been finding out about it. And so I'm getting messages from artists, and every single one of them, I'm like, we can't do an image right just yet, but after February, I'll have you lined up, and we can just go to town and just start painting out all these awesome cards and stuff like that. So that's the final bit of production, is basically painting, doing a big coloring book to fill out the rest of the cards.
Nice.
And then to make as many minis as we can. And that will be all basically locked in. Like we know how many we can make with like the core Kickstarter goal, and then we'll have stretch goals. It'll be like, if we reach this stretch goal, everybody's getting an extra mini. If we reach this stretch goal, everybody's getting 5 extra minis, and on and on. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we've been at it for, we've been in the call for a lot longer than this, but the interview has been going on for like an hour and a half or something like that.
It feels like 30 minutes. I'm sorry, everyone.
No, it's all good. I guess at this point we can, if you wanted to open up those things, let's do some unboxing. We can check those out. We also have like a little announcement for something that Dave and I are going to be doing potentially next month, I think. So in February. And it's this thing, I guess we could talk about that first.
You want to do that first? Yeah.
If people,
let's go into it. Yeah.
So, okay. I'll give a little bit of background on this, but essentially, Dave and I it came up, like, I don't remember exactly how it came up, but the idea of having like a little collaboration card in Grimpath came up, and I was like, I have this cast of characters that I'm now calling, the characters are in what I'm calling Project Red Zone, which I will talk about on the channel later. but I had these cast of characters, and I had a collaboration card in another card game, in Grand Archive. And anyway, the idea came up, and I was like, yes, I'm cool, and also it'd be awesome to have like a mini of one of my characters too. And then that was a while ago, so that was just a thing we talked about a long time ago. It's been like a year plus since then. And I had the idea, I was like, you know what, if we do this, unlike the Grand Archive one, I didn't really have much of a say in the design of the card. So just let people know, for the Grand Archive card and for Grimpath, there was no monetary exchange at all. Like, I did not get paid, I did not pay them. It was just a one-to-one, this is kind of cool collaboration thing. For the Grand Archive one, I literally sent them a bunch of design references of my character. And they were like, and I gave them some rough, like, they're like, hey, would you like this element or whatever? And I was like, okay, fire assassin card. And then they're like, here's the design. Like, I also gave them, they also asked me what rarity too. But other than that, pretty hands off. For this one, Dave and I it's going to be less hands off. So I think the idea that was proposed here is that I help him design the card from the ground up. And I was like, that would make for a really cool and interesting video series. To have a video series, I don't know how many episodes, but you know, a video, several videos, we'll see, of me and Dave working together to design a card for Grimpath from the ground up of one of my characters. I'd rather have it be one of my characters and not me in it. I don't know, this is kind of weird to have me in it, but to have one of my characters is a little less weird. So this is me announcing now that we're very likely going to be doing this sometime in like February-ish and doing like this little design series. And I think it's going to be really cool. I don't think of anyone's ever done anything like that on YouTube. I can't really think of anything like that. And it'll be really interesting to see like the design process and everything from like the ground up. So
we could talk formulas. We could talk all the like interesting like things that I've learned about formulas and mechanics. We have a designer on our team, Alex. He worked on Genesis.
Okay.
And he's working on Grimpath now, and he's been helping a lot with like, you know, expanding my mind with like formulas and TCG, like things that you don't think about, but you need to think about when you're designing a card. So it'll be fun to talk about all that stuff.
Yeah. And like, for me personally, I usually approach things from a very creative side. So like, I don't know. It'll be interesting. It'll be everything from picking which character
awesome.
we're actually gonna do, to the mechanics of the character, to you know everything. Yeah, there's the art, like what faction they're gonna be, what all that kind of stuff. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it's gonna be really fun, and yeah. So
yeah, I think it's gonna be awesome. And also, I think what we should do is I think I'm gonna like, because we're looking for fun things that we can add to the Kickstarter, and I think this could be something that we could add to a Kickstarter for other backers. Like 10 backers get to do this, and we'll be like, watch the Red Zone Rogue videos. You could learn how to do it, and then we'll do the same process. I think you and I sort of prototyping this idea. I think that would
be cool. Yeah, I've seen other games have like the super high backer tier or whatever, where it's like, you know, I've seen it in video games too, where like, oh, you get your character in the game or whatever.
For someone who's like, able to help support the game, it would be cool, you know, because I mean, Grimpath is about like you creating your imagination on the battleground, and eventually we'll have cards for everything. But early on, it might be a fun way for someone to be like, well, I really need like a bipedal brontosaurus.
Right.
I have to have that, and so I'm going to get that card into the game, and we'll be like, all right, we've got a bipedal brontosaurus. But we'll go through that whole process where you'll see how we actually narratively get it to fit into the game and everything. So I think it'll be a really fun video or series of videos. It's going to be awesome. I love game design is what I do, and it's what I love, and that's my quest. And so being able to share that with you and with any of your viewers, I think would be really fun.
Yeah, I don't know how much I want to talk about what I'm loosely calling Project Red Zone, but I'm at a world design phase right now for it, and I find that I very much enjoy that, and after building these, like making these cast of characters and developing the personalities and everything, I find myself like, I was like, you know what, someday I could work on like the world building team for a game. I think
Yeah.
I'd very much enjoy that. But I'll talk about that at a much later point. Anyway,
I can't wait
so
to see more Project Red Zone.
yeah, I have some cool ideas. Spoilers, it is not a TCG. So that is one thing that I will say. Everyone's going to assume it's like, oh, it's a TCG. Not a TCG. But possibly a card game, but not a trading card game. Anyway, it's something I've been thinking about for a long time. Anyway, with that said, let's get back to Grimpath.
You know, I've been thinking about it a long time. Like that's how where Grimpath came from. So you know, that's what it takes. You have to think about it a long time, and your friends are like, "All right, we're sick of listening to you say that you're tired of this game not existing." So
I mean, it's kind of like that actually. It's something that I've wanted to make for a long time. It's something that.
Well, let me be that guy this time. Why don't you make it?
Yeah, we might. We'll see how it goes. I'm working with an artist to help me design the actual final looks for all the characters. I've written all the personalities, and we're gonna get the world and the flavor and everything all hammered out before I jump into the loose game mechanics that I have in my head. I have an idea, haven't really hammered anything out. So this is early levels of it, but.
Nice. Well, you can make all the mistakes with me on the Grimpath card, and then you'll be ready to go.
Sure, it'll be a different kind of game though. It won't be like Grimpath, but
it's awesome.
Anyway, let's you have some stuff you'd like to open before we go?
Let's get into this. So, all right, I know what's in this box, but I haven't seen it. And so tomorrow I'm driving up to LA, and I live in Southern California. Because that's where all the good cameras are. My friend has an awesome photo studio up in LA, and we are going to shoot some rad video of it's totally, we're gonna be like that. I don't have a camera like that. I wish I did, but we're gonna shoot some awesome video. He's gonna look like that, and I'm gonna look like this. Ooh. We're gonna shoot some videos of like miniatures with like black lights, and I got this like, check it out. I've got the black lights. We're ready to go to like make them look magical.
Nice.
I bought this thing. I'm super excited to like blow myself up with. It's a fog machine.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Oh, I guess we can make some cocktails after we're done.
Sure.
So, yeah, it's gonna be cool. And like I've got a bunch of terrain. There's a Etsy artist, dungeon tiles, I think they're called. They're my savior. Yeah, I found them, and they make terrain real quick. They've got a really good routine.
Nice.
But let's see what's in here. So we've got some miniatures. Got these little minis in here. Let's get these guys out of here. So I believe this is the skeleton army. I feel so bad. Okay, Vesper is the artist that does this. If you want to look them up, these ones. Deep Light Studio is the artist that did the ones I showed you earlier. And I sent Vesper all these cards and stuff, and then they sent them back to me. And I was like, no, those were for you. And they were like, oh, I thought they were just for reference. I was like, no, I wanted you to keep them.
Oh.
So I got to send them back to them. But let me get this.
Oh, here, you know what? I'm going to do this in real time for everyone. So I'm going to embiggen Dave.
Ready? Tell me if I've been embiggened, and I'll
so what I'm gonna do, I'm just going to, I think that's me. This one's you. We're gonna do this in real time. We're gonna copy Dave's image feed, and then we're going to make him big so everyone can see. All right, Dave. Now you are the center of this video. All right.
Ready?
Yeah.
All right. So we got this sweet little egg container full of minis. Let's see. So there's 4 of these I know are the skeletons. Trying not to like break them right out the gate. Oh, I think this is a goblin summoner that we're about to look at.
Ooh.
And I broke it. Just kidding. All right, there's the goblin summoner.
Oh, it's like
I wish
colored.
that. Let me get the. Yeah, so Vesper is painting these miniatures. Look, now I'm like. it's a little hard to see, but yeah, it's a painted goblin. You know, the just
Yeah.
like the one that you have, only this one's painted.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
got some, like red smoke. That's gonna go with this card.
Yeah.
You
Goblin
know, there he
Summoner.
is. I think that's him right there. It's hard to see, but there he is. Goblin Summoner. So we got the Goblin Summoner. We got these skeletons are really cool. I'm excited to see. Oh my god, they look so awesome. Can you see that guy? It's hard to see, but
Oh, he's got like a sword.
yeah, and that like, you'll
Does he have
see
like
him.
a
You'll see him when I get the videos. All like they'll look really nice.
does he have
Much
like a
better
fur
than this.
cloak or something?
He does. He's got this like
Ah,
weird
yeah.
full cloak. So these minis were sculpted by Galad, who you can buy some of their minis online right now. Not all of these are like official minis for Grimpath. They're ones that he had done for himself.
Hmm.
And since he's joined the project, we're using some of them for, our marketing. And then basically our skeletons will look just like them, only a little bit different.
Yeah. But I mean, like you said earlier too, you can just use whatever minis
Yeah.
you'd like. So yeah.
There's another skeleton. Basically, there's 4 skeletons in here that are all
Got some shield,
hand
like,
painted.
got some arrows on his shield. Yeah.
Yeah, I got this sweet arrow, and like, yeah, it came out pretty good. Like, you can see like how big they are. These are our 32 millimeter minis. Alright, so I'm not gonna open up every single one just because the quality of my camera is not so great. But yeah, more skeletons. But before we're done with all of them, I want to open up one last one from this shipment. Yeah, they're really cool. She's got
Nice.
this like copper armor. It looks really good. I'll post pictures on social media and stuff like that, so you can see the actual high quality images of these. Now here we go. This one I'm really excited about because this is ours. This is our creation. Just don't want to break it. It's Glue Trap.
Oh, there you go. It's
Look at him.
it's the bane of my existence. I didn't mention
Look at
this,
him.
but Robin beat me every single time we played, and she was playing with the shadow deck. Glue Trap is he's kind of a house. He's really hard to kill.
Yeah, he's a funny character. That's so cool. I'm so excited to have the Glue Trap and our Goblin. Here they are together. Glue Trap and the Goblin.
Nice.
So these are the 2 warlords that would come with the starter set. And this one we're getting in. This one's injection molded. That's what I sent you. We've already got this one done. This one's getting injection molded, and when he's done, he'll be added to the starter set. So that's unboxing 1. There's one more skeleton in there, but
Nice. I'll leave you full screen. But yeah, I mean, I have a couple of the minis, and the quality's like really good. So
yeah, thank you. Yeah. The plastic we're using called CeoCast, and it creates this like, I don't know, it's a cross between like a Muscle Man from like the 1980s. Like it feels like a toy, but it also has that like high quality mini feeling. So it's very durable, like way more durable than any miniature that I've had in a long. Like it's more durable than a WizKid, and that's saying a lot because WizKids aren't like about as durable as you can get.
I did not give mine any durability tests, but they feel pretty solid.
Yeah. But check, like, so this is the box from a card printer, and I think it's really cool because there's like these plastic corners that they put.
Oh yeah.
You know, so it's, they care about the quality of the cards. That's a good sign, I think, right? Because what we're doing is we're trying out different printers to see the quality, to make sure that that we get all the deliveries on time and see how helpful they are, etc., and just to learn the process.
Yeah.
It's a bit new for all of us, but check this out. This is really cool, I think, because this is the biggest shipment of individual cards that I've gotten yet. I got these because I ordered a bunch because they are the first. Look, am I disappearing?
It is disappearing. Kind of
into the like the abyss.
into the void.
There we go. So yeah, look at all those decks in there.
Ooh.
And they're all like individually like wrapped. Like, I see. So
Oh yeah.
Like a deck box, just like now these, what you got in the mail were more like proxy cards. Like they weren't 350 GSM Japanese black core.
You're right.
Learning all that stuff. But so then also there's these are those promo cards that I was talking about.
Nice.
So
The ones
here
that like
we-
make a puzzle or whatever.
Yeah. There's a bunch. There's 5 individual cards that you can hunt. You can chase around for if you want to get the complete set. It looks like this is all one set. It's invisible. You see, that's the flag.
Yeah.
And when you see that, when you watch the trailer, you'll be like, "Hey, I know where that is," because you'll have collected the full set. But then on the other side, there's full art. It looks like for this one, I have full art, Brood Witch, just to collect. These are just to like pass out at the game conventions, up until
Nice.
Kickstarter, and then just to sort of collect because I don't know,
I do-
collectible cards.
I do like the Brood Witch. Used her for the thumbnail. Hey, I'm old, D&D edgelord guy who read all the Dark Elf
Yeah,
books, and I like the, Demon Queen Lolth, and that's what it reminds me of. So I'm like, yep.
yeah,
The-
I know. Oh, I've actually before I should show you the mini. See, there's another piece from the
Oh, that's
puzzle.
cool.
Yeah, it creates this like really cool, like there's a battlefield and like smoky mountains and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's part of the trailer, and then the full art. You've already saw the full art.
Oh, he's the summoner. Nice.
Yeah, Goblin Summoner. So yeah, if you'll get the full art Glue Trap, the full art Goblin Summoner, and then these like just art cards for this one and other intro Warlord, and then I think the third one is like a promo card that I released for Christmas. But I think I can open this one. Yeah, here's one last pro. This one's cool because there was backers that originally backed the game way back in the day.
Oh yeah, I signed up for that. I remember.
Yeah,
The-
that's
the-
coming in the mail.
The
Yeah,
little
that-
the food guy. Yeah.
Yeah, well fed. Yeah, so that was our first like giveaway. But so if you didn't get the well fed card, I got enough that what we're gonna do on the Kickstarter is there's gonna be the archaeologist pack, or tier. And when you do the archaeologist tier, you'll be able to get those. You'll be able to get one of all the pieces
Gotcha.
that we've. That way there's nothing that you're like, I can't get that card because I found out about it just now. We'll make sure that we've got you covered. And then we're testing different card backs. This one I like, but we're testing a bunch of different ones. This one, it's a little cartoonish, or stylized style. I don't want to say, but
Yeah. I like that. I think the name makes it more cartoonish, if that makes sense. I think if it didn't have
some of them are Hearthstone-y.
Yeah, if it didn't,
Hearthstone.
it does look Hearthstone-y kind of. If it didn't have the name, it would look, I guess, more like a Hearthstone card back. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, we're just trying different ones, and that's what this. So like pre like if you're a collector and you want to collect all the like pre-launch stuff, you'll basically know the rarities and the tiers based off of the card back that we use. So if you have this card back, this will be like the V2 cards. The cards that you have are the more like the V1.0s and 1 cards.
Yeah.
But you'll be able to get pieces of all of those in the archaeologist pack, so that you can get all the pieces.
Nice.
Yeah, I got all these. The first time I ordered a box was for dice, and I had no idea what to expect. It's so cool to see like pieces of it, but I had no idea what to expect. I ordered 1,000 dice, D10s that were spin downs,
Yeah.
and then I was like, I think it was like 1,500 that I ordered, or it might have been more, it might have been 5. I don't know. It's a lot of them because I was giving them away and stuff like that, and it was a good price. And then I was like, how much space is that going to take? And I did the math. I was like, well, if a dice is like 1 square inch, I was like 1,500 square inches. It's like, that's like the size of a car. And then when I got it, it was like the size of a box.
Right. Yeah.
But I was like, what am I going to do if a car-sized box shows up at my house? But luckily that hasn't happened yet. It'll happen after the Kickstarter.
Yeah. Oh, yep.
Yeah. Well, those are my boxes. I got to do a YouTube unboxing. I've always wanted to do that.
Yeah. You gotta come up with a name for your viewers. I say Rogues Gallery. You gotta come up with like Grim
Gallery, Grimpath,
Grim Gallery works.
Yeah.
Grimians, Grumbles. I don't know.
Gremlin. I messed with the idea, like call it, like I was
Gremlins.
like, yeah, should we call it Gremlins? I was like, nobody's gonna want to be called a gremlin.
How's it going, my gremlins?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it can make it work. Got to give it a little bit of pizzazz, though.
Oh, I wanted to show you the Broodwitch. Hold on.
Oh yeah, Broodwitch is cool. For those here, hey, how's it going? We for the testing, I do have the Broodwitch card, but we chose not to play with the Broodwitch. We just chose to play with the Glue Trap.
Yeah, she's more of the advanced like warlord, but
yeah, that's rad. Yeah, she seems cool.
Yeah, if you could see that, like when you see the pictures on social media with the high quality photo,
yeah,
it's on Deep Light Studio did this one, and it's incredible. It's like I can't believe that people are this good at painting. It's insane. Like it's amazing, and he does them really quick. He's like, oh, it's really easy. I just do this and that.
Yeah.
Just a little wash, and it's done. It's like what? So, and you know, but we'll have the resources that you guys need to get that good at the grimpath.com. You'll be able to have all the resources to do awesome paint jobs like that when you get addicted to mini collecting.
I mean,
like,
that's
hopefully we all are.
That's good stuff to have on the website. Have like guides and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think that'll be really like fun to sort of like get it. Like I would love it if we could like on our website get you all like connected to all the pieces that you need. Like what kind of paints am I supposed to use?
Yeah.
Oh, well, here's paints, and here's like cheap paints, expensive paints, medium-sized paints. Get all that stuff. Just I want Grimpath to be an effortless pill to swallow. You know, I want you to just be like, hey, I don't have to do any of that hard stuff. I can just play.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I don't have any more questions for now. Is there anything else you'd like to tell folks before we wrap up this 2-hour interview?
No. I mean, you know, just help us out. Give us a back. If you go to grimpath.com, you know, it'll take you to the website, and the website will take you to the Kickstarter.
I'll have links. I'll have links to all this stuff down below.
Yeah. Just you know, like I'm really excited about this. If you have an LGS that you like to hang out at and you want to play Grimpath at the LGS, either come to the Discord and tell the LGS, tell me to reach out to the LGS. That's kind of the next thing that I would like to build some better relationships with. So if you have an LGS out there, if you're watching and you've got a game store that you're interested in talking about Grimpath with me, please reach out. You can send an email to dave@grimpath.com. You can find all that stuff on the website. Get to the Discord. Grim Dave, I'm on the Discord. I'm really excited about, you know, if I had more free time, I would be driving around going to game stores and just demoing the game.
Yeah. I know you've done a little bit of that already though, haven't you?
Yeah, locally. You know, that's the easiest way to do them at local store, you know, places that are within like an hour and a half drive. I went up to San Francisco, I did a demo. North Carolina, I lived in for a while, and they have such an awesome gaming scene. If you're listening to this and you're from North Carolina, you're lucky because you have such a great gaming scene. But yeah, I went out there to play at some stores. But I mean, there was a day when I was working on this game where I was like, I just wanted to take a year off, drive around the country, go to LGSs, go to cons, and I'm looking forward to maybe that in 2024, 25, I don't know, whenever Grimpath is ready for that. And I can get out of this little hole that I'm working in designing the game.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I was gonna say it might be the opposite. The Kickstarter might be really successful, and then now you're stuck in the hole, and now you just gotta make more cards.
But then I'll just know that it'll be even more cooler when we can actually get out there.
Yeah, maybe do like a tournament or you know, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, you mentioned casually to me before that you were gonna be at like Gen Con this year, right? Because I mentioned that I plan on going to Gen Con. Hopefully,
it's gonna be awesome.
We'll see. We'll see how burned out I am by the time we get there. Because like, I got a lot of plans traveling, but hopefully,
if you've never been to Gen Con, one tip I have: if you've never been to Gen Con and you are going, don't get your hotel first. Buy your ticket to Gen Con, then get your hotel. I did the opposite, and Gen Con books up all the hotels for people that have tickets. So I ended up staying like 45 minutes away from the place.
Ooh.
Yeah. So, pro tip: ticket, then hotel. Even though when you buy your ticket, it's like there's no rooms. Go with the ticket first. There are no rooms. Pro tip.
That's good to know. It will be my first time, and when I go to events, usually I'm working the events, so usually I'm working like the coverage side of things. But when I do, I book my hotels, either in the venue if it's a venue that has a hotel plus a venue, or like within walking distance. So I just walk to the thing. That's
the best.
There's
plenty of hotels that you can do that with there. It's like really set up for that. I just screwed it up.
Yeah.
But let me show you what I bought at Gen Con real fast.
Okay.
This was my Gen Con souvenir. I'm sure there's going to be someone out there that's an equal fan that will be stoked. I bought this cool shadow box.
Yes.
You see that? Yeah.
This is cool? Symphony of the Night.
Yeah, isn't that awesome? Yeah, and it's the best quote.
What
like
is
that
a
when
man?
I was. Yeah, that blew my mind when I was like 9.
A miserable pile of secrets throws glass.
Yes. Like I was like, yeah, what is a man but a miserable pile of secrets when I was like 10, that was like the most epic.
So the first time I played this game was I was in college, and they released that on the Xbox Live Arcade on the Xbox 360, and that was my first time playing it, and I played through it and I 100% achievemented the game. I think it's like 100 and
no, it's like 207% you could get.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did the castle, and I did the reverse castle. I did the whole thing.
Yeah.
But I got all the achievements on it, which required doing it all, and then beating it as Richter, and yada yada yada.
So good.
It's a great game. Yeah.
Yeah. That's my I got that for 2 reasons. That is like my whole design philosophy. When I was a kid, I beat that. I beat the game on Christmas. I got it for Christmas. I beat it. It was like 4 days after Christmas, and I was like kind of bummed. And I was like, I was like, I'm going to just goof off in it. And I turned it on, and I was like, 97% of the map explored. Well, I'll go fill out the map. And so I filled it out after beating Dracula. And then I turned it off, and I had 107%. And I was like, there's more than 100? And so then I kept playing, and my mind exploded when I realized that like Dracula was trying to trick me to leave the castle so I never would beat the actual Dracula. And that is why I design games. So that maybe one kid out there will play Grimpath and have their mind explode. And so yeah, that's the keystone to my whole philosophy is Symphony of the Night. It's my favorite.
I love games that have like really cool reveals. I don't want to mention anything because it's spoilers for a game that came out last year, but there's great moments that you have that like really like resonate with you. And like for example, I'll just say I won't say anything more, but like Sea of Stars, indie RPG last year, absolutely love the game. Out of all the games that I played last year, even out of like playing all the big AAA games like Alan Wake 2, which was great, and Resident Evil 4 remake, which was great, Sea of Stars really stuck with me. It has it has some really really cool moments in it.
Nice, I'll have to check it out. I have not played it, but
do you like turn-based RPGs like JRPGs?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I cannot recommend it enough then. Do you like
Nice.
Did you ever play Chrono Trigger?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Love that game.
You're gonna love Sea of Stars then. If you
All
like
right.
Chrono, if you like,
I know which one it is. Yeah, now I'm starting to put some of the pieces together.
yeah, it's made by the people who did The Messenger, that Ninja Gaiden kind of game.
Yes, so good.
The music is brilliant. The pixel art is really pretty, but the story is just so good.
Nice.
Yeah, it really inspired me to do a lot of stuff. It's great.
Awesome.
So anyway, that's enough for me to talk about Sea of Stars.
Yeah, no, it's fine. We're finishing off the interview with like fun, like awesome games.
Hey, it's
like,
just
I am, as long as Grimpath is in the company of awesome game discussion, I'm happy.
It feels like an episode of the podcast that I normally do. At the end, we just tangent for like 30 minutes about nothing to do with Flesh and Blood or any card games. It's just like, yeah. So anyway.
Yeah.
No, this is the true experience here on the channel, I guess.
I'm such a if you get me started talking about games, I'll tangent into any game because that's what I love.
See, that's the thing, right? Like I just love card games. I love games, and when you get 2 people or more chatting about something that they're genuinely like really passionate about, well then there you go. That's what you get.
We should add, speaking of people that are into games and stuff, if you want to try Grimpath before Kickstarter, don't have access to a demo set, come to our Discord and we can play on Tabletop Simulator. So we have the Tabletop Simulator version of the game, and it's pretty like this background that you're looking at is from that. Like we have a nice like 360 room that you can play in, and yeah, it's fun. It really simulates the experience really well. Like it's got all the minis in there, and we got some candles so that it feels all like
Right.
magical and
Yeah.
immersive. Um, but yeah, and tomorrow I'm going to be up in LA doing that photo shoot. But usually we do Saturday skirmishes, and those are designed to be like casual learn to play days. Um, which we we're these are some of our experimenting with open play, like are we going to do Saturday skirmishes as our open play, are we going to do Wednesday drafting crafts, etc. But yeah, Saturday I am dedicated like all day to be there to talk to you about the game, load up Tabletop Simulator, play with you, even if you want to just talk to me about the game and watch me mess with it in Tabletop Simulator. Like if you're like, I don't want to get Tabletop Simulator, but I want you to show me some of the stuff, that's what Saturday Skirmish is for. So come on over to the Discord and hang out, say hello, and I am there. We have a bunch of people there that are also looking to play, and that you can play with and stuff. So
Yeah, excellent. And then yeah, I think we'll wrap it up there. I will have links to the Grimpath website, as well as the Kickstarter and the socials and all that kind of stuff in the description down below. If you would like to be notified on release, or when the Kickstarter goes live, go and follow it down below. I think my last video has already got you over 100 new followers. So
we broke 500 thanks to you.
Let's bump that up to like, I think you're like 550 or something now.
We're hunting for 600 now.
Yeah.
Let's go.
So if it's not up to 1,000 by the time this video goes live, let's get it up to go follow it. Get up to 1,000. So we can do more than that too. We can do more than that. Yeah. So
we're gonna build an awesome world. It's gonna be so rad.
Yeah, and yeah, thank you, Dave, for coming on and chatting about Grimpath. Like I mentioned at the top of the show, like I've been talking with Dave for over a year now at this point. And I think Grimpath is really cool. And it is, I'm not lying when I say it's my most anticipated game of 2024. I'm really looking forward to playing it more. And it's one of those games that, for me personally, it's going to be one that, like, if my brother comes over, if people come, like, it's like, hey, you want to play this cool little war game? Whereas, like, a lot of other card games are a little bit, how do I put this? Like, they require more mental involvement or investment. It's not as easy to be like, hey, do you want to play, hey, random person, hey, brother who's never played Flesh and Blood, do you want to play with this competitive Flesh and Blood deck with me? He's not going to know what the hell anything is. But Grimpath is like, yo, look at these goblins, right? Like, you attack with the goblins. So, yeah, awesome. I'm looking forward to that and having those kind of game experiences and stuff.
I'm looking forward to you having those experiences. That's what I'm here for. I want to help facilitate that. Exactly.
Yeah, because I want to play war games. I want to play but like it's just like too much. I don't have the time to spend like hours and hours to snip out all the sprues and glue them all together and then paint them and then memorize the whole damn codex. And then all that stuff. I just don't. I'm too busy. I don't have the time. But this, I have the time. It took us, I don't know, like less than 10 minutes to learn. I just read off the important parts that I felt from the rule page that I got, and then we just went from there. And I had a lot of questions for Dave, but other than that, it was like pretty easy. And I imagine once the rules are officially all hammered out and everything's all like done and official, it'll be super quick. So
super solid, yeah. And I do have to say, every answer to every one of your questions was yes. So you had questions, but you also the answer was there.
It was pretty intuitive. There's a lot of situations where it wasn't clear, but I could guess what it was, and the answer was yes for most of those. So
that's what it's all about, yeah. If the answer is yes, then it's at least close enough, yeah. But we'll get that like when it's in the rule book, so you can go, yes,
exactly.
I win. That's what we need, because that's the thing I love about the tournament quality aspect. It's got to be like you said, fun and casual. So you just be like, hey, do you want to play this game? But when it comes down to like, hey, it's on the line, who's going to win here? It's got to be there. You can't have any questions. It's got to be a lock. And so that's the blend that we're really trying to do. We're trying to mix and match not just war games and TCGs, but casual and hardcore, everything all at once.
Yeah. I mean that's how you have a hallmark of something that's like like that's really great and fun to play if you can do it both ways, because like I think Magic is a good example of that. Even though competitive Magic isn't what it used to be, the fact that you can Pro Tour Magic or you can just play Commander or whatever means that it's a game that can be for any sort of mindset of player.
Yeah.
And having that I think is really good and important.
I think so too. Yeah.
So, yeah. Well,
awesome. Well, thanks for having me. It's been great talking.
Thank you for being here. Looking forward.
And thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah. Thanks. If you're still here, like, oh
yeah,
my God. It's a few hours in. If you're still here a few hours in, thank you so much.
You had a good drive, or you just had you did a good working day while you were listening while you were working, or
maybe you were just cycling on your Peloton or whatever.
Yeah. If you were doing any of those things, I hope it was a great time.
If you've listened this far, hey Dave, I like to do this on some other like podcasts and stuff.
Okay.
For the people who have listened this far, give them a code word to type in the comments down below so everyone else knows if they've listened this far. It can be anything, maybe something completely random. Just work it into your comment. It doesn't have to be just that. It doesn't have to be just like squizzles or whatever. You work it into the comment so we know. So it's secret.
So I've got to come up with this comment right now. I got to come up with something.
Just a word. Any word.
Just one word. One word.
Yeah, they have to write into the comment. But I guess it has to be weird enough that it would stand out to people who know, right?
Okay. The word is Brizzleback.
Okay, yeah, that's a good one.
You're looking for Brizzleback. Like, Brizzleback is a mystery character that you may see somewhere. But you're going to have to wonder, what is Brizzleback? So ask the question.
Oh, that's so good. All right. So, yeah, everyone who's watched this far, work the word Brizzleback into your comment somehow. And then everyone knows that you are legit and have watched all, 2 hours of this. No one's going to watch that far. But the one person who does will be legendary. So,
That's great. Yeah. Brizzleback's the word. Yeah. There'll be two. Maybe we'll root for two.
All right. Well, shout out to the two people who sat through 2 hours of this. We appreciate you. Thank you for being here. And like I said, if you want to know more about Grimpath, learn about Grimpath, I will have links in the description down below. I do believe the Kickstarter is set to launch sometime in February. Do you have a hard date so far?
Yeah, February 24th.
24th.
Yeah,
okay.
February 24th. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
We're going for 24. That's our that's my movie call sign. 24.
That makes
24.
sense. That makes a lot of sense. Okay. Well, go follow them and
yeah.
Thanks so much for watching.
Great. Thank you so much. Yeah, that was super great.
And before we leave, I did mention it as well. Sometime next month in February, I don't know, probably before the 24th, we're going to do our card design series.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for that. We're going to design a cool character and they're going to be cool. And we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of card design, which I think super unique. So
awesome. Yeah, I can't wait to do that. So yeah, just message me and we'll start setting that up. That'll be awesome.
Yeah, sometime after I'm back from Japan, it'll be cool.
Yeah. Have a great time with that trip, by the way. That's going to be really cool. I can't wait to watch it on your channel.
I'm looking forward to it. So
sweet.
Okay, we'll leave now. Thanks for watching, everyone.
All right, cool.
All right.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.